Hello, my name is Dr. Koka, and this video is going to be about the solubility of different solvents in water. So this is part A of experiment 1, solubility experiment. So to begin with, we're going to take water and we're going to add 1 milliliter of water to a graduated cylinder. About 1 milliliter, and we don't have to be very accurate with this experiment. It's actually a very qualitative experiment, so it's always good to know which experiments you really need to be accurate with your measurements and which ones you don't. This is one of the ones that you sort of skip out on the accuracy. So we're going to need 5 test tubes, and I already have pre-labeled them. So this has been labeled as test tube 1 at the top. We used a wax pencil for this. So here's the wax pencil we use. So the reason we use wax pencils in an organic lab is the ink on many markers will dissolve in acetone and other common organic solvents, so they tend to wash off the glassware. For that reason, we tend to use these wax pencils. So once we add 1 milliliter of water into test tube 1, we can go ahead and now add 1 milliliter of hexane. This is the hexane bottle. We're going to use a glass disposable pipette for this purpose. We attach the pipette bulb to the top, and we're going to squeeze that bulb, bring it into the solvent, release the bulb, and that pulls up solvent, so right about there. It usually picks up about 1.5 to 2 mLs of solvent, which is fine. This is about how much we need, about 1.5 mLs. It's close enough to 1. If we squeeze the bulb now, it's going to release that solvent into our test tube, and as you can see now, there are 2 layers. Hopefully you can see that. So right around the middle of the 2 solvents is a layer. So water and hexane are not soluble in each other. So the next thing we want to do is figure out which of the 2 is on top and which is on the bottom. So this is based on density. Typically, if you do know the 2 solvents you're working with, you can simply look up the 2 or the density of the 2 solvents, and you can determine which will be on top and which is on the bottom based on the less dense solvent being on top. But another way, if you don't want to look these values up, or you simply don't know what you're working with, you can use one of the 2 solvents. So in this case, I'm going to use water, and I'm going to add more water to our test tube, and you can see that the bottom layer now grew in comparison to the top. So the marking now, or the solvent front between the 2 is around there. So there's a lot more water at the bottom, so that tells us that the bottom layer is water. So water has a density of 1. Most NHO solvents, like hexane, will have a density less than 1. So this makes sense that hexane would be on the top. So the rest of the procedure of part A is going to involve taking other organic solvents, mixing them with water. So next up, I'm going to take methylene chloride. Okay, so methylene chloride has actually a few names. Dichloromethane is another name for it, or DCM, which is just an acronym for dichloromethane. This one has one of these plastic pipettes, and we're going to squeeze the bulb and bring up solvent. So this one actually has markings on it, and it picked up about 1.5 mLs, which is fine. We're going to take test tube 2, add that amount to our test tube 2. And we're going to take now water, okay, and we're going to add about the same amount that we added previously. So we can use the graduated cylinder if you want to, or just simply add here, eyeballing the amount that we're adding. And when we add enough water, we can see that there are 2 layers. So right about the middle is a sort of the solvent front between the 2, where they're not mixing. And so the next step is figuring out which of these two is the bottom layer, which is the top. Again, we can look up the densities or simply just add maybe more water. So if we do that, you'll notice this time the top layer is the one that grew. So that tells us that water is less dense than dichloromethane. So dichloromethane is a halogenated organic solvent. So this is very common for halogenated organic solvents to have or be more dense than water. So they tend to form the lower layer when they mix with water. So we have ether and we have ethanol and acetone. We can do all three. As you'll see, all three solvents pretty much look identical to the naked eye. They're just colorless liquids. Okay, I'm going to pick actually ethanol, and I'm going to use test tube 4 for this part. So if I take about 1 ml, 1.5 ml of ethanol, put that into test tube 4, and mix it with water, about the same amount of ethanol that I added before. You might see in the beginning sort of some sort of layering between the different solvents when they come in contact, but eventually it all becomes one phase. So ethanol and water actually mix very well with each other, and they form a single layer. So these two solvents are completely soluble. We won't do the other two solvents, but you'll get the results sent out to you by your lab instructor.